Greetings of Namaste. My name is Ram Hotep, broadcasting on behalf of the number 13 ScienceAstrology.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. On this particular episode, I'm going to talk about the lifting of the ET quarantine that was put on this planet by the Galactic Federation of Light, the GFL. I know a lot of people don't like the GFL. Some people do. I'm just going to give you the facts and you be the judge. But before I do this video, I kind of want to talk about the power of words. Words have power. When you say a word, you create a contract in the universe. And anytime you create a contract in the universe, there's only two ways to get out of it. You either make good on your word or your contract, or you say, I can't do it. I can't make good on this. And you have to willingly say this. And I'm bringing this up because over the past few weeks, Ram Hotep has been going through some challenges. And I'm sitting up here wondering why. Going into meditation, contemplation, and then it really hit me the past 3 days. I mean, I really started going through it, and I'm like, okay, something's going on. I feel like I'm up under attack by some type of an entity or something like that. And so I went into myself, and I'm sitting up here trying to just think about what could it be. I mean, because, I'm getting attacked on so many levels, like, what I'm saying, like just getting attacked on a lot of different levels. And I'm like, what could it really be? And I'm talking about on the spiritual level. Like, I'm not this attack, because I know you hear me talk a lot about the attack, people trying to attack me, and on a physical level. This is more, I'm talking about, I've been getting attacked on a spiritual level. Nobody has really been, it's not really been a physical person. It's just been a lot of things in my life that have been happening energetically that have not been going right and stuff like that. And I'm like, why isn't things going right? So of course, I know it's me. I'm like, it's me, it's something I'm doing. Of course, I already know that. But then I'm like, what is it that I'm doing though? Because like when you study this energy, you got to like narrow it down. So I finally find out that from going into myself that I gave my word on something important, something major, and I didn't fulfill my word on it. And right on the date that I said I was going to make my word bond and talk to the people about some things that I said I wanted to talk about, I didn't fulfill it on that date. And that's when everything started to really go kind of like haywire in my life a little bit. That's when it started up. And I couldn't figure it out. I mean, I would have had, because the stuff that was happening really didn't have anything to do with me fulfilling my word, but it was like a chain reaction. Since I gave my word, it was like, okay, now this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. So I had to figure out what it was. And I gave my word that I was going to talk about, and I was going to give a date as to when the quarantine will be lifted. And I didn't fulfill that duty. I didn't fulfill that duty. And I'm here to first, apologize to the people, because a lot of people know that I said I was going to do that. But secondly, I'm here to fulfill my word, because we always have time. Time is of the essence. And I'm here to fulfill my word, and I'm going to talk about the quarantine and give out the date as to when it was lifted. Now, first, I want to kind of lay a foundation to help you to understand what the quarantine is and why it's even important. I talked about it in another video. I have a whole video talking about the ET quarantine, so I'm not going to go too much into it here, but what I'm going to say is that the quarantine is somewhat of like a spiritual ban that was put on this planet so that the beings on this planet would be more physical. It would operate more from the physical, instinctual level. When you understand a quarantine, first you have to understand who put the quarantine down. The quarantine was put down by the Galactic Federation of Light. And the quarantine was put on this planet approximately 6,000 years ago in the form of like a spell that was cast on this planet. Many people have heard me talk about the spell of Kingu that was cast on this planet, or the spell of sleep, or the spell of sex, all the essence, disease, to go to sleep. So this spell was cast on the planet, and it caused the beings on the planet to not be able to access their higher spiritual senses anymore. See, at one time, beings on this planet could freely communicate telepathically. They could freely share thoughts with each other without speaking. Beings could freely create realities and do things in the dream world that would have physical benefits. What I mean by that is that beings could create a reality for themselves in the dream world and then live out that reality in the physical world in real time. Beings had the ability to do all of these things, but when the quarantine was cast, we lost these abilities. And when a being was born with these abilities, we called that being a prophet, a messenger, a messiah, a savior. The only thing these messengers, prophets, the one gurus, the only thing we are, because we're all prophets and messengers, the only thing really it is that these beings had access to the higher senses, even though the quarantine was cast. And it's a reason for that as well. It's a reason for that as well. These beings were in tune with, they were made to be in tune with the higher realities, while everybody else wasn't, because they were given extra senses at birth through their blood and things of that nature, through their ancestral line that they chose to come through. So, like your prophets and gurus and stuff like that, the reason why everybody looked at them as superheroes is because they could do things that most people couldn't because of the quarantine, though. If the quarantine was lifted, everybody would have the option, not to necessarily say it's going to be manifested, but the option to be able to use their higher senses, clairaudience, telepathy, remote viewing, psychometry, intuition, using your will, like being able to actively use it though. Like we used to have these particular powers and we lost them because of the quarantine. And this is where it gets interesting at, because a lot of people do not agree with the Galactic Federation of Light, and they're on the side of where most of the Luciferians. The Luciferians feel like the Galactic Federation of Light is full of shit. The reason why they feel like that is because I'm going to explain it to you. See, the Galactic Federation is a really big organization that has many small organizations within it. And they control resources. It's like an order. And they control resources. But when I say they, it's not really like one person. Remember, it's a group, it's a bunch of different groups. They all choose a head to sit on this think tank, which is called the Galactic Federation of Light. And what they do is they control resources, but not for selfish gain. One thing I do know is that to really get into the ranks of the Galactic Federation, you do have to have a certain mastery over your self-will, which means you cannot be individualistic. You can't let your ego take over. You can use your ego to do certain things, but you can't allow your ego to rule over you. So there's certain initiations and stuff like that that takes place in order for beings to be qualified to get into the Galactic Federation. Now, each group, there's different groups within the Galactic Federation. Each group has a head that sits, on the council, the Galactic Federation of Light. And that's where the problem comes in at, because you have the Luciferians, on the other hand, that believe that the beings at the top are corrupt and that they're using universal laws and exploiting people with universal law. They're saying you need to join this Galactic Federation if you want to have access to these resources, because you got to realize, even in the universal order of things, just like we need money and things to make it, like even if we barter, it doesn't matter, you still need something for something, just like we got to always give something for something. It's the same way in the universal order, except that it's just that what they're trying to do with energy and the way they use energy is totally different. Like we use money and just spend it on something else, or we just give something for something, whereas they're more into alchemy. They need, say for instance, kelp, or they need seaweed, or they need like spirulina or something like that, so that they could break it down and get the vitamins and stuff out of it, and use these vitamins to do all kind of stuff with, to create organic different types of beings, just to create certain products, certain environments. So they're more so, they use energy and resources to, I guess it's more scientific. Like everything that they need resources for is to advance science. And science to them is the way that beings advance and progress. See, they don't progress like we do. Like we feel like we progress when we got a big ass car, big ass house, you know what I'm saying? Like balling, right? Just living on the top. Like that's progress, right? That's supposed to be progress because you got all this money and stuff like that. But no, see, to the higher beings, the intelligent beings, progress was how far humans were along as far as energy and scientific exploration. Say, for instance, like right now, like humans are still depending on oil for energy when we could easily be depending on oxygen or some other, or water or some other resource that's not something that will eventually go away. Oil is going to eventually fade away. It's going to eventually disappear. So humans are dependent on something that will eventually be no more. That's not progress. And the fact that it's not changing, it's been this way for 50 years, that shows a lack of progress. Whereas with ETs, their whole existence is about progressing that. Like they're like, no, we can't do that anymore. Like we have to get rid of that problem. Like they're all about problem solving, period. Whereas humans get caught up in the ego. Like we'll solve a few problems. Like say for instance, a person is born in poverty, right? I'm gonna give you a good example. A person is born in poverty. And we're all guilty of this. So this is not judging or nothing like that. We're all guilty of being lazy. We're humans. But a person is born in poverty, uh, like they ain't have nothing. So they got ambition because they like, I ain't never had nothing. So they go hard, they like, I got to change my situation, which is, rightfully so. That's a challenge. So they try to change their situation. So they finally get out of poverty and they become rich some kind of way. Say, for instance, they become rich. Not mega rich, but rich. And then they stop and they start living the lifestyle. And they could get caught up in the lifestyle of being rich now. They forget about the ambition, the progress, getting ahead, solving problems, and they create more problems for themselves because they get caught up in the lifestyle. Whereas these ETs, to get into the Galactic Federation, you have to be past that. You have to be past the ego to even get initiated into it. So they say. So they're past that, like the ego, the beings are, like they're all about the progress of that particular race, period. That's what it's all about, the progress of that race. So that you have to kind of like have a grip on your ego. Now the Luciferians, they feel like that's bullshit. They feel like that the beings of the Galactic Federation of Light are using the universal laws and exploiting it because they found out that the universal laws, there's ways to break the laws and appear as though you're following it, meaning that there's ways to break the laws and not get any karma from it. See, when I was talking about words, how when you put words out there, that creates karma. Well, the Luciferians know that karma is the basis on a being's progress in this particular realm. Like how much karma you create, a being able to get ahead is based on how much karma they create, and they feel like the Galactic Federation was withholding information that could easily have gotten them. Basically, like if they had to talk to Luciferians how to get out of certain karma and things of that nature, then they would be supreme beings. They would be like the beings on the council, the elders. And the Luciferians found out that basically the elders knew things that they weren't teaching people. And they felt like that wasn't right. So that's what caused the breakaway. So now you have different groups of beings that aren't necessarily with the Galactic Federation of Light. So I'm saying all that to say that the quarantine was put down mainly for the interests of the Galactic Federation of Light, really. It really had nothing to do with the interests of humans. It really just helped humans to become way better at being slaves. The fact that the quarantine was put down. That did, on a positive note, it did give humans time to get used to this body so that we can learn how to get mastery over this body. The fact that we weren't able to access and fully open up all of our chakras until recently says a lot. Now, at one point, we were able to do this, but I'm saying from 6,000 years, if you notice, that's when we lost the knowledge of everything because that's when religion got introduced on the scene. So we lost the knowledge of how to use our higher chakras. And for 6,000 years, that was okay because humans were getting used to being physical. We were in more of a physical reality, getting used to being in a body. But the thing is that ignorance started to set in. People start to forget. And now the state of humans is very low because of the fact that this quarantine has been lifted. Being cast and been put down. And not only that, but humans have lost willpower. So a lot of humans don't really want to break free from the control of desires and the control that the Luciferians that were left on this planet when the quarantine was cast. Because you got to remember, even though the quarantine was put down on this planet, that blocked certain beings from being able to come to this planet. The quarantine did do that. It kind of isolated humans, put us in like a nursery school. So it blocked certain beings from being able to come to this planet. But then on the other hand, You had beings that were already here before the quarantine was cast, and they were still here, so they kind of took and started playing games and put themselves into the position of being gods and stuff like that, and they ruled over humans because of the fact that humans couldn't really access the higher chakras. So that's how the ignorance came in. That's how this low state that we got in, this grotesque state that we're in right now, this is how it happens. It's based on the quarantine. And both parties, the Luciferians and the Galactic Federation of Light, have a lot to do with the suppression of humans and how we got to this point. Now the quarantine is being lifted. That's what I want to talk about right now. You can turn on the news. When I turned on the news, this is what really started to give me an idea of why I was going through my shit that I was just telling you guys about, like why I was getting attacked by these entities. And when I turned on the news, I realized, I was like, wow, the quarantine is lifted. And I thought about it. The quarantine was supposed to be lifted on May the 5th, 2013. That's the date. And I thought about it like, oh, wow, that's why all this stuff is happening. And the thing that really sparked it for me to set it off was the tornado in Moore, Oklahoma. Now, I definitely want to send my condolences to the families out there and anybody that lost loved ones in that. This is nothing to celebrate or anything like that. I'm just talking about the quarantine being lifted. So all those lives and all those people, they said this was like the biggest tornado in history. Listen to this, the biggest tornado in history. That's how you know the quarantine is lifted now. The quarantine is lifted. That's the sign right there. And it happened, the date that I was given by these beings, the Andromedans, was May the 5th. I had an experience. I know I'm bouncing around here, but let me tell the story and then I'll get right back to the tornado. I had experience with some Andromedans last year. And I'm not going to go into too much of it, but I was shown some things about my personal life, but I was also shown some things, some dates. And one of the dates I was shown was the date as to when the quarantine was going to be lifted. And the date I was given was May the 5th, 2013. I had this dream last year back in April, around the time when I did the first video about the quarantine. That's when I had the dream, like maybe shortly after. So, and I was given an obligation to talk about this. So that's why I'm doing this now. So the tornado, so when I saw that tornado in Moore, Oklahoma, and I turned on the television, I saw that, I was like, that's it. The quarantine is being lifted. Because remember, guys, I told you that the quarantine is based on a lot of things. It's based on our ability to not have, it's based on a ban that was put on us so that we cannot access certain energy. But now that energy is available again. That tetionic energy. See, when the quarantine was put in place, we didn't even have control over some of the so-called dark energy either. So you have light energy that helps you to have all these high senses, clairvoyance, intuition, stuff I was talking about before. But then you got a dark aspect to the quarantine too, which helps us to get into tune with our shadow self and the energies of our shadow self, which is the tetionic energy. You see, and that's the ether, that ether. So now beings are getting back access to those darker forces and that dark energy, and I don't know what beings were behind it, but that tornado was definitely intelligently planned and created. When I was listening to the weatherman, when he was talking about the tornado, he talked about how that those tornadoes always take the same course and the same route. Why? Because Moore, Oklahoma is in the center of the country. And the center is where the energy is most potent. That's where the energy is most potent. So that tornado came from and was created by some intelligent beings, probably somewhere in the center of the earth, that have gotten they got more juice now, more power, so now they can make bigger storms, is what I'm trying to get you to see, because of the fact that the quarantine has been lifted. And they are at war. They want the surface of the earth, these beings. They want the surface of the earth. And that's why the weather is unstable and things of that nature, is because they use weather to make war. They're at war. And not even just really with humans, they're at war with the beings that are controlling humans. See, they don't want the Galactic Federation to come back and take control of the surface of the earth. These beings in the center of the earth. So you got a lot of stuff going on. See, a lot of this stuff that's going on with the weather is not even really being targeted at humans, but humans are going to become casualties because we don't, for one thing, we don't have no idea it's a war going on right now. We don't have a clue. There's been a war going on since like 2003 with these beings, going back and forth because they're trying to see who's going to take control of the surface. And we don't have a clue. So that's why I'm putting this video out. So when I saw that tornado, I was like, that's it, it's on. So then I turned around and turned on the TV and I saw some stuff going on, and I want to kind of talk about in London. And, you know, I saw the guy with the blood on his hands. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow, people are really letting these archons and these forces come into them and take control over them. And now it's time, like, for the warriors to really step up, because people, you know what I'm saying, people about to get buck wild. Like, people think that they're invincible now. Like, you got some people out here now that they think they Superman and they can just do anything. So you got to be courageous in this time. Now that the quarantine is being lifted, they have access to all kind of dark thoughts, dark energy, dark forces, and they're liable to do anything. And you have to be able to give that back to them. You have to be vigilant, be able to give that energy back to them in case you are aggressed upon, for those particular people out there that are like, well, I don't really want to be a part of any of this war thing, and I'm just an innocent bystander. Even innocent bystanders aren't safe because of the fact that the energy is rampant. So you have to learn how to work with the energy the way your ancestors show you how to work with the energy. And I mean, you know what I'm saying, if you becoming violent, you know what I'm saying, and let some energy take over you, if that's what it leads to, you need to really check yourself. You need to really check yourself, and check how you work with the energy. And but at the same time, if it comes down to the fact that someone becomes violent and they aggress upon you, you have to defend yourself. You have to defend yourself. So you have to know how to give them that energy back. So it's getting deep or whatever. I'm just saying all that because somebody really wanted me to address the stuff that's going on in London or whatever, and to me, it's directly tied into the fact that the quarantine is being lifted. They say an eye for an eye, and you return violence with violence, but that just creates more bloodshed. That's definitely not the way. That's definitely not the way. The only way you give somebody violence is if they give it to you directly, like they directly aggress upon you or your family. That's what I teach or whatever. Like if a person is not directly aggressing upon you or your family, then you don't give them violence. Like you just don't do that. And really, if you're a higher being, you learn how to vibrate over violence. You should know when a violent situation is going to come your way. You know what I'm saying? And know how to be able to step outside the boundaries to offset that. So it's just a lot. It's just a lot. Like I said, I'm not a person that's telling you to be passive. I don't believe if someone punches you in the cheek, you're supposed to turn the other cheek and let them punch you in that one too. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, I am saying that you protect yourself when you're physically aggressive upon you. But it's a lot of people here, they're idealistic. See, like they feel like, well, if I don't, you know what I'm saying, become violent, or if I don't join a violent group, then somebody's going to come at me and I'm not going to have any defense or protection. And that's all fear. That's what they want you to do. That's what they want you to do. You got to remember the archons are on both sides. They play both sides. So they're controlling the people, the radicals, and they're controlling some of the people that's up under the status quo too. So they're controlling both sides. So it's up to you to be intelligent and to make good decisions and to defend yourself and your family. Don't get caught up in politics, idealism, and people fighting over stuff that they don't even know what they're fighting over no more. You know what I'm saying? Fighting over land and stuff like that. Like, you don't need any of that. You don't need any of that. The only thing you need to do is to make better decisions. Like being a person that's deep into meditation doesn't make you weak. Doesn't make you weak. It makes you more intelligent. Helps you to have not even just intelligent. That's not even a word. It helps you to have overstanding. See, when you're deep in meditation, you can see a whole bigger picture. Then you decide the role that you want to play. You know what I'm saying? So you're over the situation when you're in meditation, which means you're not even a part of what's going on down there. You have to bring your energy down to play a particular role. That's what meditation is supposed to do for you. So you should be able to see through and know when things are going to come your way that may possibly challenge you. So with this quarantine being lifted, I mean, anything goes. I mean, so much stuff has been going on in the news, and it's just the first. It hasn't even been a month yet, and we've already had a couple of things. There was another thing that went down too in Russia that I meant to talk about. And a student of mine told me about this. I haven't researched it, but it was like an 8.5 earthquake in Russia. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff going on right now. You know what I'm saying? It's all tied into the quarantine being lifted. The ancient ones are back. Those particular archonic, demonic, some deceptive, some enlightening forces are now here. You know what I'm saying? We can use these forces. They're readily available for us, and people are using them. But I'm just putting this video out so that people will know that the energy is present, the quarantine is lifted, the ban is no more. Now it's all about as to whether or not which humans will decide to go ahead and get initiated into the Galactic Federation of Light, which is a whole nother story. I'll do a video on that. And then some beings may decide, or some humans may decide to stay on the Luciferian end, which is the end of basically feeling like you're a radical and you're a rogue, and you're basically not going to really go with the bigger order. You're just going to kind of live on your own or whatever. It's like a rogue or like some type of a radical or whatever. So that's the kind of like the decision that's going on or whatever right now when you deal with this whole Galactic Federation of Light versus the whole Luciferian thing. I mean, it's a war. It's a war going on, and it's about progress. At the end of the day, really, it should be about progress for humans. If humans want to go to the next level, I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to have to take control of our willpower, our will. Now, myself personally, I agree with the Galactic Federation because a lot of people are going to ask me, so what do you agree with, Ram Hotep? Um, I see what the Luciferians are saying, but I agree with the Galactic Federation on an overall grand scheme of things because of the fact that I know that the Galactic Federation, their doctrine is a lot higher than the doctrine of the Luciferians. The Luciferians have a point as to feeling like since they're not a part of this order, since they're not privy to these higher secrets that the elders of the Galactic Federation can deceive them and cheat them and things of that nature. They have a point, and I understand that. But the thing is that everything happens in degrees. So when you get a part of an organization or something like that, you might not be privy to certain secrets in the beginning, but as you move up, you learn more. And humans, see, like we can't get caught up in our egos and let the Luciferians get us caught up in our egos and say, well, we're not going to join the Galactic Federation of Light because they're keeping secrets away from us and we don't know this and that. Like, what if they're trying to deceive us? The fact of the matter is that right now we don't know too much of anything. We don't know too much of anything. So the information that they're going to give you just getting initiated in is going to be a lot higher than what you know right now. So I do kind of want to just talk a little bit about getting initiated into the Galactic Federation of Light. And really, the whole concept of the Galactic Federation of Light is understanding light. How you get initiated into it is really through first understanding astrology and solar biology. The astrology aspect is to understand how light plays out and creates past, present, and futures simultaneously. That's the astrological part. And then the solar biological part is the part where to understand how light interacts and interfaces with the human entity. That's the key to getting initiated into the Galactic Federation of Light. Now, the Luciferians do teach this as well. They teach astrology in the Luciferian order as well. But that's the key. Like, either way, humans are going to have to get initiated into a particular order because of the fact that the quarantine is lifted so that they can learn their higher senses and learn about their higher self and learn about their shadow self and learn about how to work with this particular energy. So that's what it's all about. And then once you learn how to work with this particular energy, then you want to go ahead and what you want to do is that you want to travel to the different sacred spots, like the different, say for instance, you want to go to the Cuyahoga Mountains in Illinois, you want to go to Giza, you want to go to Yucatan, like you want to go to those places and align with those places, because as the quarantine is lifted, there's going to be different types of energy available in different sacred sites. See, the ancients knew this or whatever, so it's just different levels to this whole thing as far as this whole initiation. But I just want to kind of let the listening audience know that the quarantine is lifted. It's time to go ahead and make our transition onto the next level. You're going to see a lot of different phenomena going on. A lot of people, you're going to see a lot of viruses breaking out. You're going to see a lot of concentration camps popping up. Just a lot of stuff going on or whatever, basically based upon the fact that this quarantine is being lifted. So people's minds is the main thing that's going to be affected. Like, you really never know what another person is thinking. You really never know what entity is in them. Like what's really going to be happening now that this quarantine is lifted is that people that you once knew are not they're going to look the same, but they're not going to be the same. And this is something very key here that you got to remember, because it could be anybody. You might be looking at the same person like, I knew this person ever since I was 10 years old, but that person's not the same anymore because entities coming in them and taking over them, and the fact that they're susceptible and open to these entities and the energy of these entities taking over them is what's going to cause them to act differently and look a certain way. And you're wondering why people are going to talk a certain way. And, you know what I'm saying? There's just people are going to become more demonic too, but then people are going to become very enlightened as well. You're going to have a lot of the light beings, and the light workers are going to get very powerful and dominant as well. So it's going to be definitely something pretty interesting to watch as, humans kind of make our shift. We're getting our higher senses back now. So people's third eyes are open now. People are going to be able to see people's auras and stuff now. Like regular people can read people's thoughts now, so that's going to create new crimes. You're going to have psychic thieves, vampires, stuff like that, all kind of stuff going on. So it's going to be an interesting time. I was just here to let the listening audience know that the quarantine is lifted. I'm going to go ahead and shut this video down, stop running my mouth. I thank you guys for listening and watching, and until we meet again, I'll leave y'all in. Namaste.